it is, the MG ZS EV. It's finally arrived. So yeah, that's it. The MG EV ZS is here. It's finally arrived. In fact, it turned up in June, just when they said it was. So that's fantastic. I'm only getting to know this car just now. I haven't driven it that much in the last couple of weeks. I've driven it a little bit. I've formed some opinions on some pieces. I'm still getting to know some of the other features of this car. So this isn't going to be what I'd call like a full review. This is going to be just my first thoughts about what I think about certain things on the car, what I think you should look out for, that kind of stuff. Starting on the outside, I think the car looks really nice. I think they've done a really nice job on the styling, specifically when you compare this to the petrol equivalent. So on the EV version, they've gotten rid of the grille, and I think that's a much better look for doing that. They've also tried to get a like little Tesla lip going on there, which again I think looks great. They've changed the location of the charge port. I think they could have hidden it in the badge, to be honest, but I'm not that bothered with it being there. Plenty of other electric vehicles have their charge ports here, and no special buttons to get into it, nothing on the key, nothing inside the car. Just open it up and it's there as long as the car is unlocked, which is nice. Headlights, they're LED, very nice, look really good, provide a lot of brightness. The tyres on this car, quite chunky, quite big sidewalls, but that makes the car very comfortable. And they've got good, decent Michelin tyres on them as well, which is a bonus. You know, they haven't cheaped out on the tyres. This car's only 34,800, and this is practically the top of the range car. The only thing that's missing from it is some of the connected features, which I just didn't need. So let's go for a little drive, and we'll talk about it more in there, because it's really windy out here. Whew. Now it is a hot day today, and getting into the car, one of the first things I don't like about this car, and it's kind of one of the first things that I noticed when we got the car, is actually the seat material. So they are going for this kind of vegan leather vibe, but I don't know, it feels very it just feels not that great, and I'm not too keen on it. However, the rest of the interior, I like it quite a lot. Let's get the car going in the aircon, because it's so hot today. And one of the things I really love about this car is that full panoramic roof and the sunroof. I don't remember the last time I had a car with a sunroof. In fact, my Mark 1 Golf had a sunroof, and I replaced the roof because it was one of those cheap aftermarket sunroofs that they did in the 80s. That's the last time I had a car with a sunroof. But I really love this. The kids love it, and on a hot day like today, it is really nice just to be able to get the temperature out of the car by opening up the roof. And I think, you know, the kids, when we're driving, have a really great new aspect to things. The only thing for a bald guy like me is I need my fully charged hat. Otherwise I get some proper sunburn without knowing about it. So put it in drive and let's go. Driving along on these country roads, the first thing you notice is actually the suspension's really comfortable. It doesn't crash around on bumps. The big thick sidewalls in those tyres that I talked about, actually that's a really great thing, because obviously those big thick sidewalls are soaking up some of those lumps and bumps in the roads, like that one. And really it makes it quite a pleasant driving experience. Now, I don't think that people who buy this car are really going to be after a performance machine that corners, you know, well. This, after all, is an SUV, and you know that means it rides high. It's not low down to the ground. That's going to affect its center of gravity. That's going to affect the way that's going to affect the way that it corners at speed and things like that. So, you know, it's fast. And we'll just close this up now. Aircon's got going and the speed's up a little bit. It's fast in a straight line, and it's definitely faster than the Zoe. This is about 150 brake horsepower as opposed to 135 in the Zoe. So yes, it is fast, but it's not good in the corners, and I don't think anyone who buys a car like this would really expect it to be like that in the corners. It's a comfortable cruiser. That is what this car is, and that's what we bought it for. That's what we wanted. We wanted to be able to go on a long journey in very nice comfort and be able to put some stuff in the boot to go camping, for example. And we were finding that the Zoe was just a little bit too small, and really the Leaf didn't do that much better either. So my wife, who's a boot aficionado, had given this at the first viewing her seal of approval as to the size of the boot in this car. But I do like a car that drives well. So, you know, I am kind of you know, I'm not complaining about the handling on the car. There's nothing wrong with it. It isn't a bad handling car. It's just not an amazing handling car. You know, we can go around a corner like this. You know, it's fine. But can I take it at, you know, a ridiculous speed? No, that would be a bit ambitious for this particular car. So, you know, you're getting an SUV and you're getting SUV handling. But you're not necessarily getting SUV performance. The performance is an electric car performance, and that's pretty good. So with that performance, you've got 3 modes. You've got Sport, you've got Normal, and then you've got Eco. And when you flick through those modes, it gives you a different range estimation. Now, I tend to keep it in Sport mode when I'm pulling out of junctions and when there's a lot of traffic around. I have found that the Normal mode does kind of hesitate a little bit, and I'm not kind of keen on that when I'm pulling out of junctions, just because I don't want to find myself in oncoming traffic because the car hasn't done exactly what I want. So I have gotten into the habit of putting it into Sport from Normal, but then I just flick it back into Normal, because Normal, when you're driving and you're not needing to pull out and use a lot of acceleration, it's absolutely fine. This car, in terms of range, we haven't done a range test on this car yet. We haven't had it long enough, but we will be doing some trips in the summer, hopefully. Is up to 273 miles, and I think actually, you know, if you're driving around town in eco mode, you could probably get a lot more than that. It's got a massive 72 kilowatt hour battery. The thing that gives me the confidence really is that our Zoe, with its 52 kilowatt hour battery, can get 240 miles you know, in summer without a problem. So this, I think, is going to be able to do a lot more with that 72 kilowatt hour battery. Although, you know, it is a bigger car, and so you've got to take into account more weight, and especially if we are stacking it up with lots of camping equipment. But I'm driving it along now, and it's almost hilarious to me that I've got 33% battery at the moment, and I've got a 79 mile range. You know, it's just enormous range, and this car gives you total confidence that you've got just an absolute ton of range. Now, inside this car, apart from the seats, which I think feel a bit cheap and feel a bit plasticky in terms of when you're sitting in them, they kind of make these kind of plasticky noises. The rest of the interior is actually really nice. The sort of touch points feel quality. The steering wheel, as I said in my previous video, looks like a Volkswagen steering wheel. There's a lot of Volkswagen Audi-esque looking things in here. The infotainment display looks fine. The controls look fine too. There's a lot to like. And if we pull in here, I'll take you through a little bit more of that. Indicators are a bit loud, that's one thing. Sat in the car looking at the infotainment display, we've got a number of buttons which actually is really useful to see. I'm not a big fan of just having a display without tactile buttons. I just think it's much easier to reach for a tactile button when you're driving along, not having to look at the screen. So what we've got here is a bit of a mixture of both worlds. So we've got every feature replicated on the display, but certain key features along the bottom here are physical buttons. Now, some of these buttons actually go up and down, and some of them are just single action. So these ones here for the window demist and the rear window demist are just one way, whereas for the fan speed, temperature, volume, etc., they're down and up, down and up, down and up. So I like that. I think it's really nice. So the first button we've got here is a home button. So say, for example, we were in the 360-degree view, which we'll talk about in a minute. Press the home button and we're back to here. As I say, we've got volume up, volume down. We've got the fan on and off, defrost for the front and rear windows, fan up, fan down. Actually, I'm going to turn that down because the fan is getting a bit loud. I don't want that to mess the audio up. And we've got temperature up and down. Those features are also on here, so you can bring the fan up here and the fan down there, and the temperature up here and the temperature down there. I just don't like the fiddly nature of the screen. There'd be need to be much bigger buttons, and plus you can just not even have to look about pressing any of those buttons. As soon as you know where they are, you know what they do, then your muscle memory will kick in and you'll be able to remember where those things are and be certain that you've pressed it. Other things that we've got going on the screen, you can swipe across, and you got a number of settings here. So you can go into the settings, for example, and you can start to add Bluetooth devices and fiddle with sounds and volumes of various bits and pieces. I haven't fully explored this. I'm sure I'll find various bits and pieces, but as I go along. But that's the kind of the settings side of things, and then the kind of everyday stuff is here. There is another menu if you hit the middle of the temperature button, and that's to show you where air is currently coming from. So you can set different modes here. This is where you also access the heated seats. So the heated seats aren't present on any physical buttons, so the only way you can access the heated seats is through this menu system. Now, I don't mind that. It's fairly easy to get to, and it's the kind of thing you just kind of switch on, and then you don't need to make any other adjustments. The only challenge really here is that if you don't know where they are, then it can be a bit of a faff to try and find them the first time around. Once you know they're there, that's fine. Plus, because they're not physical buttons, it does make it easier for things like the app when doing preheat and stuff like that to actuate the heated seats as well, because there is no physical switch in the way. So obviously in cars which don't have the heated seats feature, you're not sort of having a blank button anywhere. You're not having to fill a void where a feature was for a newer model. In this area here, we have the mode dial for your drive options. So you've got drive, neutral, reverse, and then park. You just press it and you're in park. One of the nice things about this drive mode selector is it does automatically remove the handbrake if you're not on a high ground or on an incline. So if you are on an incline, it won't take that off, and you will need to do it manually. But in most cases, like we are now sitting on the flat ground, if you go into drive, it will automatically take the handbrake off. Here you've got 3 buttons as well. So you've got the mode button, which basically is up for sport, back down to normal, and then back down again for eco. That will change your range, and it'll also change the performance of the car and how the accelerator pedal feels. I normally keep that in normal, apart from when I'm pulling out of junctions. In the middle is KERS. Now, that's your brake regen, your regenerative braking, and they've obviously picked the KERS name from Formula One. I've got it set on 3, which is the fullest or the strongest form of regen. And if I come back, I can see on the dash here, it's just coming back down to 1, push it up again to 3. So that gives me various levels of regen. I don't find 3 is that bad, be honest. So I've just left it at 3. The last one does something a little bit different. So when you press the battery button, it brings up the battery
menu. So what we've got here is the current battery status. So we've got 29%, 71 miles, and then what we have here is the charge. So it's saying here that you're in battery health is the best in the middle, and then you've got this sort of long journey, which is the last 20% of battery. So it'll charge up to 80% is what it's saying here, and then if you are going on a long journey and you're going on a long journey the next day, for example, you can move it up and get the absolute maximum range. You can change this. You can move that to wherever you need, and wherever it feels right to you. I've left it there. It's fine. We don't go on long journeys very often, so I'm quite happy to just leave it there, and then when we are going on a long journey, I'll charge it to the max when we're doing that. So I didn't know this at the time I bought the car, but there is this vehicle to load feature, which with other vehicles, as we've seen, you can get an adapter cable, and that will give you a 3-pin socket, and then you can use it to power appliances when you're away from home. Say, for example, you're on a campsite, you can power a device, or just not have to pay for a powered pitch. So that means when you go camping, you can either go to less well-equipped campsites and still get power, or you can pay less for a pitch at a campsite because you don't need the power on your pitch. You can use this to charge your phones and power other things that you might have around when you're camping. Now, the other thing that I've really enjoyed is this 360 degree mode. So the 360 degree mode has been fantastic. I really like it. You've got the front, rear view plus side views, and when you're reversing, it will obviously select the right camera, but it'll also warn you if you've got traffic coming up. So I really like this. The other thing is using it for when you're parking and stuff like that. That's really very nice too, and we used to have that on the Leaf, so it's nice to have that feature back. I'm not going to go through all of these stalks here. These are just your normal wash wipe and indicator, but I will give a shout out to this little stalk here, which is a favourite from my Audi ownership days, which is the cruise control stalk. Basically, it's off right now. You pull it forward, and then you get some extra options on your display. You get the speed, of course, to set, but also because this is a radar guided system, which I didn't have in my Audi, but I did have in the Leaf, and I really liked it, is you can dial the sensitivity or the range of the radar guided cruise settings. So as you're going along, if you've got it set to 3 bars, it will leave you a long way back from the car in front. And if you bring it down to 1, it's not going to ride their bumper, but it'll bring you closer into the car in front. And to be honest, I find these systems are kind of more safe than sorry. So actually, even on setting 1, you're not that close to the car in front. So you can get to vary that, just as you really see fit, by bringing that up and down. And then obviously, if you want to go a bit faster, you can push it up. If you want to go a bit slower, you can bring it down. When you're first starting the cruise, you can just hit set, and it will set it to whatever speed it is that you're currently doing. And I think when you press up on the stalk, it gives you a 5 mile an hour increase as you're driving along. On the steering wheel, you've got a lot of obvious buttons: telephone and volumes and mutes and next track, all that kind of stuff on there. Then you've got kind of menu systems for when you're in the menu there. But I do like this button here. So this button here is something I haven't seen on a car before, but it makes a lot of sense. You press it, and you get this kind of quick menu. Now, one of the things I've found already is that the brightness of this screen is a little bit, it's not temperamental, but different lighting conditions mean you might want it brighter during the day, and then in the evening you want it a bit dimmer. Now, for whatever reason, I don't know whether it's a problem, software or whatever, but it's not really very good at sensing what's going on. So you can adjust the brightness as you see fit here, and it is a little lag, so it'll go dim, and then you can bring it back up. And this kind of quick menu gets you to a number of things that you might want to do very quickly. So if it's too bright, you can just bring it back down, and then you're back to whatever screen you were on before you pressed it. So I like that, and you can add things to this menu. So if you want a particular feature on here, then you can add them yourself, which I think is a nice touch. One of the other things in here, if I move my keys, there is a little key zone just in the bottom of this one, so if you need to put your key in there for any reason, sometimes the wireless keys don't get detected or something and the car complains, you can just pop the key in there and that'll be that. And then just down here we've got a wireless charger for your iPhone or whatever, and then you've got your your Apple CarPlay USB socket and a USB-C socket as well. So that's most of the features that I've currently looked at in here. Obviously there's the music for the radio, all of that kind of stuff. So you've got Bluetooth music, and you've got other. I'll just turn that off again. Other things going on there. You've got the DAB radio and everything, as you would expect, which I've completely forgotten how to do because, like I say, I haven't used. There you go. There's radio, and then you can go into here, and I've got some stations lined up which I've put as favourites. So you can have basically it's fairly, there's a lot of digital music, so you can go down all of these, or you can like them when you've gone into them, and then they appear in your favourites menu, so you don't have to kind of sift through a whole list of radio stations. So that's that. I don't mind this menu system. It's okay in terms of performance, but it's I just haven't got used to it yet. But certainly there's nothing wrong with the kind of speed of the menu system. And I know that was a bit of a complaint of the last MG, so I'm quite happy that it doesn't seem to be a problem in this new model. The only other thing in the interior, apart from this kind of creaky, plasticky feeling seat that I'm not too keen on, is just the position of these arm rests here on the doors. They feel a little bit low. I think they could do with just being a little bit higher so that when you're driving along you've got something to rest your elbow on. But that's really the only thing. This is fine up here. This is perfectly fine, so you can be driving along like this with your arm resting here, but you just don't have that armrest because this handle here and this little armrest here just a little bit too low for my driving position anyway. Now up here, some of the really cool features, some of the features I really love, nice little touches. You've got an SOS button, so if you get into trouble and your phone's connected, you can just hit that and it'll call for help. There is a USB socket up here for your dash cam. The only slight thing is they haven't changed it for right-hand drive, so it's still over on the passenger side, so you need a little bit of a long cable to go round to where your dash cam isn't sort of obstructing your view. And then you've got a couple of controls here for your sunroof. So you've got the sunroof that can open like that, and then you've got it that it can open fully, and then you've also got a sunshade which is separate, which can come across as well. So a couple of controls up here in the roof, as well as your kind of standard lighting bits and pieces here. But the way that the lighting is laid out is that it's got actually options about what it tells you they're going to do. So this button here, for example, tells it is going to turn the lights on when the doors open. So you don't have to have a kind of three-way switch and kind of end up guessing which what that switch actually does. So again, some really nice thoughts, nice touches up there. Let's go into the back and we'll just have a quick look at what's going on in the back of the car. So in the back of the car, there's plenty of leg room. And for my two kids, they're going to need to get a lot bigger before they're troubled by the amount of legroom that's in the back here. This is my normal driving position, and as you can see, I've got loads of space. The other thing that's in here is you've got a USB-C socket and a USB-A socket.
So you're catered for both types of USB for a long while to come. It's also got a couple of air vents in here, so they get some fresh air, air conditioning coming through towards the back here. One of the things I really liked about this car is just that none of this is optional extras. You know, these USB sockets, I think in the Enyaq, if you wanted a Skoda Enyaq with these USB sockets, it's another £250. You know, none of this in this car is optional. This is all what it came with as standard. I have heard that the roof here is no longer being manufactured in this car, and I don't know whether that's just because they had problems with it. I hope not, because I've got one. I think it's amazing. I'm actually really jealous of my kids' view of the world, because it just adds so much to driving around, being able to look up at the sky as well as, you know, kind of out of the windows to the side. So I'm really jealous of the view my kids are getting in this car. I think this is one of my favourite features about the whole car. It does have its drawbacks as well as having a great view. It means it's very loud in here when it rains, because obviously there's no sound deadening or insulation in the roof space, because it's a glass roof. So you do get a lot of rain noise if you're, especially in a heavy downpour or something like that. It is quite loud in here under those conditions, but otherwise, you know, I'm really pleased that we've got one which has this glass roof, and I'm a bit sad really that they've actually gotten rid of it, and I'm hoping they'll bring it back. I hope they'll bring it back if you know, the problems with COVID and the things. I'm just kind of assuming, I'm hoping that, you know, perhaps some of those problems with COVID is the reason why they have kind of had to streamline their production. Maybe they had supply issues with you know, with that particular feature. So that's it in the back. Obviously you've got ISOFIX, we've got ISOFIX kiddie chairs. My kids are delighted as well that they have this pull down armrest which has a couple of cup holders in that. They really like that, although it does make it more tricky for my daughter to put her own seatbelt in, so she has had to remember before she puts anything into that armrest to put her seatbelt on. So moving around to the boot then, nice big boot, really nice.
When we went camping the other day, as you can see here, we got absolutely everything in the boot.
So that's not it, that's just the beginning. That's a quick tour around this car. We're going to get to know this car over the next few years, I hope. I think this car is personally going to be with us for a while. It's got a great range, and as long as it does what it says on the tin, I can't see really any reason why we would choose to replace this. I know I've been through a few cars in the last couple of years, which is really unusual actually for me. I don't normally buy new cars for a start. I normally get second-hand cars, but when I made the decision to go to EV, then the new ones were just getting better and better all the time. And I'm sure they will continue to get better and better all of the time. But this car, for me, does everything that I think we're going to need for a considerable period of time. So there isn't that need anymore to go for a new car, you know, and keep getting new cars. So I'm hoping that we're going to keep this car for a number of years. Now we still do have to sort out our other car, and I'll do an update video on that shortly because there have been some developments. But as for this video, you know, there's going to be some more videos on this EVZS, how we get on with setting up the app. Is it going to be as bad as the Leaf? Is it got the range that we think it has? How's that going to do? When the vehicle to load stuff comes out, how's that going to work? When is that vehicle to load stuff going to come out? I'm really looking forward to that. So this is really just the beginning of the journey with this EVZS. I'm totally new to this brand, totally new to this incarnation of this brand. So you know, I'm not sure how this is going to go. So stay tuned. Don't forget to like it and share and subscribe and all that jazz, and we'll see you in the next one.